Hello again, and our first story here. Communications specialist at Ghana's Ministry of Energy and Petroleum, Edward Barr, says Ghanaians should begin to see improvement in energy supply by the end of the first half of 2016. The country has been experiencing load shedding for the past 6 months, negatively affecting business operations and livelihoods of individuals.
At the end of 2013, the peak demand was 1,943 megawatts. It tells you clearly that in terms of our demand, it has increased. Now let's look at the total electricity generated. The total electricity generated after the end of 2008 was 7,290.4 gigawatts. If you look at the end of 2013, the figure has increased to 10,583.2 gigawatts. Now, if you look at in terms of per capita, the electricity generated per capita, because that is where the thing is, the availability of the power to the Ghanaians. After 2008, in terms of electricity per capita, was 363.5 kilowatt hours. If you look at the end of 2013, it has increased to 485.7 kilowatt hours. Somebody may say that you are generating this power, but maybe we are having losses. Therefore, even though you generate it, people do not get it. Let's look at the power that has been consumed by Ghanaians. In terms of electricity consumed per capita, after 2008, it's 316.3 kilowatt hours. After 2013, it's 399.4 kilowatt hours. This clearly indicates to you that in terms of availability of power for people to either use in the domestic and for industrial work, there has been an improvement. Even though, if you look at in terms of our peak demand, the peak demand has increased from 1,367 to 1,943, taking the 2 years that I'm using as comparison. So it tells you that in as much as in terms of perception, people think that, look, 75% of Ghanaians are not excited about what is happening. The reality on the ground is that people have really had power available to them in 2008 as compared to in 2008.
So the picture you have painted is the fact that, again, supply hasn't met demand.
That's obvious.
But those demanding are paying for it. Why haven't we expanded enough to meet demand?
Good. Thank you very much. I think that it's important to realize that if you look at, and even giving you in terms of our load demand, it gives you a fair idea that as a country, our load demand annually has been increasing very abnormally. We're always talking about 10% increase annually. Now it is 12%. Indeed, if you look at the first 20 days of this year, it increased by 1.5%. So it tells you that in terms of our load demand, it's going up. So if we have a total available capacity of about 2,000, it means that for every year, you must add at least 200 megawatts if you are even talking of 10% increase. If you take a 200 megawatts plant and you want to put it up, from the period of negotiation and finance sourcing to the actual construction, it takes you between 24 to 36 months. So, whilst you have every year, you have 200 megawatts being asked of us in terms of demand, in terms of the increase. In terms of construction, you will need about 2 to 3 years to be able to meet that same demand. So you realize that our supply lags behind that of the demand. But what is the strategy? So basically that's the reason why we find ourselves in the way we are. Because even though we have increased our installed generation capacity from 1810 to about 2,845, we still have a problem because of the fact that if you look at the demand has increased so huge. What is the strategy? The strategy we took up was that, look, instead of saying that every year we'll put up a plant, let's put up a number of plants at the same time. Let them all be running at the same time. So that in the next 2 to 3 years, from the inception of the project, we should begin to start seeing this plan coming on stream. And that's why we have consistently indicated that for us to be able to solve this current problem, we would see the benefits of what we have been doing all this while by the first quarter of next year, when most of the plants will start coming on stream. And when they start coming on stream, then the supply will meet the demand. And
well, subsequently, the Energy Ministry says 85% of postpaid meters at various public institutions have been replaced with prepaid ones. In 2010, President John Mahama, then Vice President, directed the ECG to fix prepaid meters in all ministries, departments and agencies to curb the abuse of electricity consumption at the MDAs, while the government took the necessary action to clear its huge indebtedness to the ECG. We're changing the postpaid meters to prepaid meters. What updates does the ministry have on this?
Basically, if you look in terms, I just really do not have the data in terms of the replacement. But the last time I checked, in terms of state institutions, we had at least replaced about 85% of them. Now, there are some of them that actually speaking, we did not do. One, all emergency like hospitals. We did not replace them before for the fact that, can you imagine that you are on a theater table, they are operating you, and the credit finishes? That is dangerous. And so you may not want to rely on a prepaid one, but you rely on a credit meter, with the hope that the hospital will do the right thing by paying the bill. The other areas have water pumping stations. If you put up a water pumping station off, it is not only the organization that you are punishing, but you will also be punishing people who will rely on the pumping station for water. And so, in places like this, we put postpaid meters. You have security installations that, in our opinion, must always have life if we want to have ourselves well secured by agencies that are responsible for that. And so, areas like that, we do those things. And of course, we also have the universities and other things that are also with postpaid. But what we have decided to do is that, look, the fact that we put you on postpaid does not mean that you are above for paying your bill. If you do not pay your bill, ECG would come after you. And that is exactly what ECG is doing in Kumasi. By going, one of us, I read even on your own network about the fact that if you look at K-Poly had been disconnected because we were owing to the tune of about $2 billion.
That's true.
So, $3 million. Sorry, Ghana. So it gives you a fair idea that there is an effort to ensure that state institutions do not think that, power is given to them and is given to them free of charge. They must pay for it. They must budget for it and pay for it.
Recent statistics have indicated that there are about 4.5 billion mobile users worldwide. Over 2 billion of these users are said to be using smartphones, with 2.9 billion internet users sending over 7 billion emails in a day. Ghana is among those countries in the sub-region which has come a very long way to embrace technology.
Centuries ago, messages had to be delivered by courier, either on foot or by horseback. Technology began to reshape our lives with further developments in the 19th century when cable telephone was invented. The acting executive director of Data Protection Commission, Teki Akwete, bemoaned the rate at which individuals abuse technology, which he says led to the establishment of the commission to implement and monitor compliance with provisions of the Protection Act.
What we do is monitoring the implementation of the law. How do we do this? We do this by making sure that large collectors and processors of personal information are registered with us. And for ordinary people and the ordinary citizens, you may be able to go online and then search the register. So if, for instance, you're dealing with a particular individual or company, you may be able to go to our site and then search the register to see if that person is registered with us. Apart from that as well, if there is any threat to your personal information, you will be able to go online and then report that complaint to us.
Communications, Atu Sapong said that the building to house the ministry was under construction and will be completed in no time. He went on to announce the official launch of Data Protection Commission, which comes off on November 18.
As regards the data center itself, it's progressing well, and that is being supervised by NITA. The Director General is here, and that is progressing well. The racks are coming in, the generators are done. So the data center as it is should be done by the end of the year. But the property, as you see sitting there, will be done by the 31st of January 2015. So based on the project plan that we have, the National Data Center, both the primary one in Accra and the secondary one in Kumasi, should be ready and available for use by 31st of January 2015.
Issues of unknown callers will tend to harass the privacy of data mobile phone users.
The Ghana Independent Broadcasters Association is calling on the National Communications Authority to request a minimum capital requirement when allocating frequencies for the association. Several frequency owners lack the resource and capacity to run their stations, giving room for unethical practices to thrive as a means of sustenance.
Since the liberalization of the airwaves, the National Communications Authority has allocated about 354 radio frequencies, out of which 291 are operational. The authority has also licensed 125 TV channels, but only 72 channels are functional. This, the Ghana Independent Broadcasters Association believes, is not sustainable for a middle-income economy like Ghana, as the operations are capital intensive.
I think we cannot sustain 300 radio station industry in this country. I mean, our economy is not that big, and so what happens is that you have radio stations that cannot retool, that cannot train their people, that cannot build capacity, that cannot pay their staff, and so you have a lot of stations with staff who are not paid. They are not on a payroll. They go out and bring stories and they carry them because they cannot pay for content. And so if we don't see it as business and say, okay, the economy, we have a frequency plan to support our agric. Maybe we have 4 agric stations. To support our economy, we have 4 business stations. For our politics, we have this number. So we do a frequency plan. Some of the rules that I think should be put in place is raising the capital bar, so that before you go into the industry, there's a minimum capital requirements. The banks are doing it. So why don't we do it for the media? Once we do that, I believe it will sanitize the system, and through that, we can build enough capacity. And this issue of solely here, people going out there, for brown envelopes, will go down.
For Geba, the move amounts to a ploy to kill media freedom.
A lot of media houses are struggling because we are all fighting for a small kitty. Advertising budgets are being cut all across, and more radio stations are coming on stream. So what happens is that, what, for example, maybe Joy could get last year, they can't because now there are 4 or 5 main other players in their category. And yes, competition is good, but then we can't have competition forever. If that were the case, why do we have only 4 mobile telcos? Why don't we then open it up to 200 mobile? Because of the capital needed, you cannot meet that. So in the same way, with broadcasting, we have to have a capital ceiling. If you want to come into the industry, you have to be able to invest. You need a bank to guarantee that you'll be able to sustain the business for some time, and not just buy a transmitter and then think that you are a broadcaster.
Abigail Atamakwenchi for Joy News.
In a related story, a research conducted by the Graphic Communications Group on media ethics has revealed media practitioners breached the GJA Code of Ethics 803 times in just a month. Media watchers are therefore asking journalists to uphold integrity and selflessness in their work.
They conducted the research on media ethics between September 2006 and September 2014, monitoring keenly 1,072 stories from the media findings of the NMC for the month of September. It revealed 85 stories were fabricated and untrue. Over 139 stories were also not comprehensive, while more than 214 stories fell short of ethical principles and balance. In the context of the GJA Code of Ethics, the research showed a 100% breach, a situation which speakers at a roundtable discussion on media ethics condemned.
Our money, the Media Development Fund, was used to give out cheap, low-cost, unsellable laptops to a few journalists who rushed to collect. Some people got 2. What happened to their intrapersonal ethics at the time they were collecting the laptops? The Ministry of Information by that action behaved unethically. And the journalists who collected the GJA also behaved unethically.
Sometimes newspapers publish sheer fabrication and tarnish people's reputations. Sometimes the things journalists say on air when they have the privilege to be part of a discussion are simply not edifying. Sometimes you see clear pornography on front pages of newspapers and you wonder whether the papers thought for a moment how those things offend public sensibilities. And you also wonder whether the media are aware of their role of educating the masses and preserving our national values and culture.
I am unwilling to surrender my humanity to an envelope. What about you? Are you selling your birthright like Esau ignorantly did and suffered the consequences of the blessings of his father Jacob? Or you are willing to do what is right so that even if you do not get material reward, you will get the reward in another form.
President of the Salt and Light Ministries, Dr. Joyce I, while bemoaning an Ethical Media Act, also called on regulators to use frequency allocation as a means to ensure ethics in the profession.
In the media, we are professionals, and all professionals pride themselves about the dignity of their profession. And the dignity of our profession is that we must report only what is the truth. We must minimize harm. We must act independently. And we must be accountable and transparent. That is what gives us dignity. But can we link media ethics to frequency allocation? Should one body perform this function of frequency allocation and ensuring and promoting the adherence to ethics? How transparent can we make the frequency allocation process? And finally, how can transparency in frequency allocation ensure an ethical media landscape?
She also called for transparency and fairness in frequency allocation, adding the need for the NCA to provide clear guidelines to help in processes of allocation. Abigail Adamakunchi for Joy News.
There's more to come here. Don't go away.